The Breen are on their way. They demanded we handed you both over. You must have foreseen the possibility they would intercept your SOS. What was your plan?
Always been partial to winging it.
Coming up, Moll and a critically injured La'ak are finally in Federation custody.
Your Federation has captured 2 fugitives who have incurred in Erigah. Be ready to hand them over upon our imminent arrival.
Scans show a Breen dreadnought heading this way at maximum warp.
However, that relief is fleeting as the Breen arrive, demanding their surrender under threat of war.
I have a decision to make on behalf of the Federation. That is where our attention should be.
Should the Discovery and the Federation acquiesce to the Breen's demands?
She's not thinking straight.
She is, and she has a plan. Her motives are irrelevant at this moment.
Or should they retain custody of Moll La'ak to safeguard the secrecy surrounding the race for the powerful and potentially destructive progenitor tech?
I have a decision to make on behalf of the Federation. That is where our attention should be.
All this and more
Coming up on the Star Trek Discovery edition of Energize.
Energize.
We're going into the uncharted regions of the Star Trek universe 1,000 years after James T. Kirk.
You're listening to Energize, a Star Trek Discovery Edition podcast, your source for detailed analysis, colorful debate, and spirited discussions about the final adventures of Captain Michael Burnham and the USS Discovery crew.
I'm your host, Anthony McLemore.
And I'm Steve Truitt. This week, tensions escalate between the Federation and the Breen as the mysterious race demands the surrender of Moll La'ak.
Will the Federation yield to their demands, or will they opt to retain custody to safeguard the secrets of the progenitor tech?
Here's a warp speed recap of Season 5, Episode 7 of Star Trek Discovery, Erigah.
Admiral, I thought we were transferring them to you.
Change of plans.
Your Federation has captured 2 fugitives who have incurred in Erigah. Be ready to hand them over upon our imminent arrival.
Scans show a Breen dreadnought heading this way at maximum warp.
We're almost ready, Captain.
Aiming right into a biobed, not a good sign.
La'ak is in bad shape.
What are you doing?
I'm giving him something for the pain.
We're gonna help him, Moll.
You did this to him.
The Breen are on their way. They demanded we handed you both over. You must have foreseen the possibility they would intercept your SOS. What was your plan?
Always been partial to winging it.
If you want to help us, let us out of here. Take our chances on our own.
With him in his condition, you would have no chance.
Some things are worse than death.
What's worse than death?
This conversation, for starters.
Primarch doesn't actually plan to kill you, does he?
Who are you?
All right, Steve. So in this episode, I think we finally got an explanation as to how deep the relationship between Moll and La'ak is.
Yeah, we got it, in flashback over the last couple of episodes, and we really understand, she really loves him. But I think for the first time we actually heard "I love you" in this episode.
Yeah, and we actually, at least for me, I felt it. I felt it, and I was moved in many ways, which we'll get to a little bit later.
And I think that's hard to do for an actor behind all that prosthetics, too. So, bravo to La'ak.
Dude, La'ak.
La'ak. He must be from Hawaii.
Gotcha. It's funny. So nice. we start off, Discovery has jumped into this area of space where they have, where another ship has Moll and La'ak in custody.
Admiral Vance asked me to bring a team aboard Discovery to assist with security as you transfer the Fed HQ. Moll had this stashed on her when we pulled her out.
Dr. Velik's diary. We already have some of it on file, but let's get started translating the rest. It'll tell us everything we need to know about the progenitor's tech.
And we join up with Commander Nan. She's aboard the Discovery and is debriefing Burnham about what has taken place.
So you've got Nan, Moll, La'ak, and Mike. Or Michael.
And Mike.
Yeah. And of course, first of all, the opening shot's amazing. They start outside of Discovery and they go into this port window overhead. And I just loved that. I thought it was a beautiful shot. I like this director. He's done a couple Discovery episodes. But then, of course, as soon as they get there, Booker's standing there.
Yeah, and right before Booker walks in, Non gives Burnham the scientist's diary. So now that's back in custody. So I'm relieved that we have that book. So that means their trail has gone cold because they don't have reference.
Right, and this is the book from The Chase from Next Generation, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. It's a nice throwback.
Yep. And so, like you said before, Book shows up, and there's, when he shows up, I just, I'm still not trusting Book. I understand why with the relationship, why he's on this mission, but that introduces a little bit of potential volatility.
Well, for sure. And, and she lets us know, like, the last time I saw you shot photon torpedoes at us and detonated a device and all this other stuff. And Book is a deep character to me because he's an empath and all these other abilities he has. But I still don't know what he's doing or what his things are. But I don't mistrust him. I just don't think they're flushing him out enough.
No, that's interesting. But, Non, doesn't, like you said, doesn't hide her distrust of Booker.
Yeah.
And, Burnham basically, dismisses him.
Well, yeah, because it looks bad. And it's like, look, not now. Just let the grown-ups handle this. He does have a lot of access for a guy who's not Starfleet, on a Starfleet ship.
I know. That's always made me feel a little...
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Transporting now, Captain.
What are you doing?
I'm giving him something for the pain. And then I need to examine him.
So Moll and La'ak are being directly to sickbay. La'ak is critically injured.
Yeah.
As you know, they had that fight, and they were on the run 2 episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, but the problem is they don't know enough about Breen physiology to save him.
So, first of all, they got to figure out how are they going to handle this. If this guy dies in Federation custody and he's a Breen royal or they want him, I mean, that could cause all-out war. It's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, big deal. I mean, it's kind of like having a member of the royal family in your custody, and if something happens, I mean, you're going to have a whole, you have the British royal family coming at you.
Well, yeah, if Prince Harry and Meghan, are in the backyard and Harry got clipped by something and Meghan's freaking out, what are you going to do?
Exactly. And so, Culber has done some research, and he's heard that, Breen can regenerate in extreme cold situations, and he can get this old Breen refrigeration unit out of Federation custody.
Just happens to have it. And you would think, like, in the 31st century, they could just...
replicate it?
Replicate it. Thank you. So what happened to the replicators?
I don't know. Maybe they just had this one unit and they decided not to copy it, but it's at a Federation storage facility, so they need to get that. And so Discovery jumps to this place where the facility is, but they're not allowed to dock.
Commander Asha, bring us in for docking.
I'm sorry, Captain. They're asking us to hold.
Wonder why.
Captain, we're receiving a hail from Admiral Vance. He's requesting to speak with you before we dock.
Put him through.
Apparently it's classified.
And Admiral Vance beams over for a classified conversation with Burnham in her ready room.
Yeah, and this is ominous. This seems scary. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? What? And she's like that too, like, what is happening? And he's like, listen, take the 2 and get the hell out of here. The Breen are coming, and it's a big kick-ass dreadnought ship, and they don't take prisoners, and it's all-out war. And Burnham doesn't agree.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, you say Dreadnought is coming. I'm just like, oh boy, those are mega ships. And I agree with Vance. It's like having a hot potato. And Moll and La'ak are a hot potato, and you need to take it and you need to run because everybody wants it.
Yeah, and he even plays the message for Michael, and he's just like, look, here's the message. The message was cool. It looked like this starburst thing, and then they had to decode it, and it just says, we're coming to get you. And it's scary. And they also need to protect the fact that they're on a scavenger hunt for this progenitor tech that so far the Breen doesn't know about. Moll and La'ak are trying to find it so they can by their freedom. We tend to forget that, so they remind us of that in this episode, which is good.
Yeah, and the big deal too is that, and this will come up later. Remember when Burnham and Rayner were time cycling?
Yeah,
the Breen had defeated Starfleet.
Yeah.
So immediately I'm like, oh my God, is this the explanation for what happened in the future when they got a preview of it? And now I'm really concerned and I'm really invested into the story at this point because I want to know how this is all going to turn out.
Yeah, me too. And I think we both know that it won't turn out that the Breen does destroy Starfleet. But wouldn't it be fascinating if that was the last episode of Discovery? That's the last of Starfleet in 2999 or whatever the hell it is.
We jump into the future, Starfleet's been
gone.
Destroyed, and then it gets destroyed again at the end.
And there you go, the Breen win. They rule everything.
All hope
is lost.
All hope dies.
Yeah, right. Gene Roddenberry was wrong, everybody. Good night.
Yep, that would suck. That would suck royally.
Yeah, that would suck.
Yep. But Burnham suggests, like you said before, staying and forcing the Breen to deal with him, and Vance reluctantly agrees.
I both love and I'm disappointed that it's always that easy for these people from the past. Would you believe people from 800 years ago and just let them run the ship? They show up and they're like, listen, trust me. And they're like, oh gosh, maybe she's right. I'd be like, excuse me, you didn't even have razors 800 years ago. You're not allowed to tell me what to do. You know what I'm saying?
I guess it depends. I mean, if George Washington suddenly appeared in the framers of the Constitution, they might be a welcome sight because they had to lay down the law and be like, hey,
okay,
guys.
Good point. But one, that's 250 years ago only. And two, it has to do with something that was laid out and we're not paying attention to it. This is a lot different, I think. This is like strategy.
Good point.
No.
Good
you
point.
Gotta run. Yeah.
Admiral, Captain, Commander, thank you for coming so quickly. President Rillick has delegated me to lead negotiations in her stead. In preparation, I have reviewed all records of past diplomatic relations with the Breen.
So now we have a strategy meeting. And so the Navarre president, Tarina, meets with Vance and Burnham and Rayner, and she is there on behalf of the Federation president. And she's been asked to lead the negotiations with the Breen.
Notably missing here is Saru, and we've already said goodbye to Detmer and Washakun, and now, Saru, and they write it off. They're like, he's off, captaining somewhere.
Being an ambassador to develop nations and whatnot.
But it's just
worlds.
too much of a write-off for me, Anthony. It's just like, wait a second, these were major characters. And
I actually did a deep dive. And basically Doug Jones, who plays Saru, had a conflict when they were doing the season. He had to go promote some other film that he was tied to, and had an obligation to find a sequel, if I read it correctly, and had to step back for a little bit. But he will be back towards the end.
Well, we only have 3 episodes after this, so that's it. I do miss him. But what's going on here is that the Breen are in their own little internal strife after the death of their emperor, and there are some factions that are fighting for power. Now, this is a good setup. I let it kind of escape me when it was happening, but this really does play into something that they utilize later. So I think it's a nice setup.
Oh, absolutely. And it led to even more intrigue as to what are the motivations. This ship is coming.
Why do they want these two people so badly?
Well, why are they here?
I mean...
Yeah, so Burnham is suspicious as to why they're sending a ship to demand the Federation return. They could have just sent a message.
And the thing is, like, you and I know, well, this is his nephew. But, I mean, is that what it is? I'm thinking, is he, no one leaves the family? Is it like the mafia? Like, what's really happening here? I'm still not 100% sure. And there are factions, and they're talking about succession. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
6 Primarchs are currently at war for control of the Imperium.
Do we know which one is coming?
We do not.
Doesn't matter. All the Breen are the same. The word diplomacy is not even in their vocabulary.
Rayner doesn't care about any of this. He's very agitated, very frustrated, and once again he starts popping off at the mouth, and he recommends a defensive posture. And he's like, let's, get weapons all across the ship to make it look like, we're forced to contend with. And I don't disagree with
You mean an offensive posture?
Well, I guess it would be offense if you're doing it preemptively.
Well,
yes,
he does say at one point we should attack first. That's a little bit later, but I wonder.
No, at that point he said, "Why don't we, put devices on the ship to give appearances that we're bigger than we are?"
Okay, good.
And
yeah,
so
you're right. That is a defensive posture. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he, he's like, listen, these people can't be contended with, and so it leads to an argument between Tarina, who believes this could incite an attack and actually start something that they don't want to actually begin.
My suggestion, we install Thoron emitters on the hull. Used with geranium shadows, it'll give the impression that we're armed to the gills. At least give them pause.
Or incite them to attack.
So what?
And of course, Rainer's just like, come on. We need to show strength. He's always just like, we need to fight. And Trina is like, well, okay, they could put our necks on a chopping block. I mean, the arguments are good. One of them is, no, let's wait and discuss and have diplomacy. And Rainer's like, there is no diplomacy. They are not diplomatic. They understand one thing, and that's winning wars or winning battles.
Yeah, and so, Burnham, has to tell him to ease up.
But he still keeps going because he's Raynor. I mean, he's definitely a lot like in Picard. What's his name? Captain. I keep forgetting his name. I know his real name, Todd Stashwick. What was his name?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just drawing a blank at the moment. It's been a long day.
With me? Why do I always forget his name? Captain whatever, of the Titan, originally. Anyway, like that guy. So it's definitely an echo of that. Burnham tells him to leave. Listen, we just let the adults talk here. And so Raynor has to step outside.
Yeah, and so, Burnham states it's important for them to get information out of them. And she knows she has an idea of how to pull this off. And Vance, trusting Burnham, tells her to do it.
Well, again, wow, that's amazing. Okay, how does she have this idea? What is the idea? But, she's earned trust from Vance. And he also says to her, listen, you can do it, but keep Raynor in line. So there's your chain of command saying, hey, keep your people in line. And I think that's a pretty good element there.
If Vance thinks a defensive position is anything short of an invitation to be decimated...
No, the Admiral is doing the best he can with what he has. And he's as concerned as I am about your ability to handle this today.
Neither of you understand what you're up against here.
So Burnham meets with Raynor, and Raynor is insistent that they do not know what they're getting into. And Burnham tells Raynor that his objection seems personal, but if he has valuable info, then he needs to speak up and share. And he's like, I already did.
He's like, I've said everything I need to say, right? He did. He said it in the meeting, and people weren't listening to him. He's definitely got some emotional connection. I think we see this a lot. We see this on Strange New Worlds with La'an, who has issues with the Gorn, and Captain, what's his name? Captain Stashwick from Picard, who has issues with the Borg, and they are kind of leaning on some familiar themes. Almost a little too much in my mind, but I get it. You've got to have a antagonist, and I think in this case, that's what Raynor is doing. And so we'll just keep going and hope that he plays ball and doesn't mess things up.
Yeah, he's going all... I finally looked it up. He's going all Captain Shaw.
Shaw. It's such a simple name. Captain Shaw.
Yeah. And so... We join Stamets, and he's asking Tilly for help with the clue they acquired at the water tower.
Hey, Tilly. Wait, Tilly. I was looking for you at the science lab, and they said you were taking a shuttle to Fed HQ?
Yeah, if the Breen are going to attack, my cadets are going to need me.
We need you here.
And it's a Betazoid logo. It's a metal card with an inscription saying the labyrinths of the mind. And I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Right, because a labyrinth is a puzzle, and the mind is whatever it is, the mind. The mind is a labyrinth, I think. But she seems reluctant to help at first. She's just like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, she was trying to get back to, with the Breen coming on and sensing there's an imminent attack going on, she wanted to get back to Starfleet Academy. And so Stamets says, no, we need to figure this out. And he convinces her to stay.
Which is a good idea. I don't know. I'm hoping the last 3 episodes are stronger than this. I feel like the last 2 episodes, the previous 2 episodes have been a little thin writing-wise. It's more like it's a lot of action, and there's no depth here. I'm starting to miss the depth. I thought the first 5-6 episodes were pretty strong, but the last 5 episodes were strong. I'm a little concerned. It feels a little weak, but maybe they just crossed that bridge.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think they're setting us up. I think they're setting us up because of what happens by the end of this episode.
Dr. Culber, how's he doing?
Improving, slowly. The blend of sub-zero gases promotes a strong immune response, unique to the brain.
Can I talk to him?
You can try.
So in sickbay, Burnham gets an update on Locke's health status. He's doing better. The cold treatment is working. And Burnham informs Moll and Locke that the Breen are on their way. And the Breen wants the Federation to hand them over.
Right. And, I think Locke understands that they're not going to do it. But they resist. They both say, forget it. We'll take our chances. Let us go and we'll take our chances. But Burnham's still trying to figure out, well, listen, you need to tell me why that they brought their biggest, most deadly ship here. Why? What is the big deal? And they just won't talk. So Burnham just starts to go into a guessing game and just kind of, for lack of a better term, susses it out. And
yeah, Moll's like, let us think for ourselves.
And she's like, is it this? What's going on? Is this your dad? Is this your son? What's happening? And the less he says, the more she knows she's right. And as she, uses her powers of deduction, I do love this scene. She realizes the Breen aren't going to kill Locke, and she wants to know why.
Yeah, she's like, who are you really?
And I think we kind of knew he's a nephew, he's family, but we find out that he's the real blood heir to the throne. And he's disgusted by the thought of that.
Oh, yeah, he says he'd rather die than take the throne.
If you want to help us, let us out of here. Take our chances on our own.
With him in his condition, you would have no chance.
Some things are worse than death.
What's worse than death?
This conversation, for starters.
Primarch doesn't actually plan to kill you, does he? Who are you?
And that's why I don't know what the name of the commander in the Breen wants him so badly, but it turns out that he needs Locke to ascend to the throne himself.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, I love it when you hear about all these factions and everybody's fighting fighting for power. It's like a Game of Thrones-esque type thing.
I do feel like that's what's happening here is Game of Thrones.
I found a match for the phrase inscribed upon the metal card. Labyrinth of the Mind is the title of a Betazoid manuscript, written in 2371 by Dr. Marina Durex.
That's one of the scientists who helped hide the progenitor's tech. Any chance you can source us a copy?
Only a few thousand were published in its time.
And so Tilly and Adira are studying the Betazoid logo inscription on that metal card, and unfortunately, there aren't any original manuscripts that they can use for reference. And so Adira, asks the computer, which I didn't mention this in previous episodes. The computer Zora is actually. That giant bit of information. Remember it was season 2. It was all about Control trying to get a hold to that wealth of information. Remember the computer? And that became Zora.
Interesting. It's kind of like Jarvis.
Yeah.
Jarvis becoming Vision.
Jarvis. Yeah. And so Adira goes through, opens up the search to Starfleet personnel who might specialize in ancient manuscripts, and it says that Commander Reno,
who I really like
is the
very
person.
much. I love her delivery. I just think everything about her is cool. She's so over it, and but they go down to see her, and she's, working. She's like, I'm trying to get ready for the Breen, so she's helping them. And they're like, so I understand you're really good at, understanding original manuscripts. She's like, yeah, I might have, inflated that on my resume a little. It's a great response. It's funny, and it puts a a bit of a wedge in what they're trying to do. I thought it was great.
Yeah. She's so matter of fact, and you basically understand that she's done a lot of things. She's been a smuggler. Yeah. She's done an assortment of other jobs.
She goes, I'm even thinking about taking a waitressing shift later, right? Or bartending shift.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just thought it was a very hilarious exchange because anytime she's in a scene, I always laugh.
And this is Tig Notaro. She's a comedian and very well known in the comedy world. It's interesting they cast her. I really like her a lot. She just really adds a cool element.
Oh, she's hilarious. But before she can really dig into, before she can give information that Tilly and Adira need, the Breen show up.
Attention all personnel. We are now in yellow alert.
Madam President, Admiral, that Breen ship, that's the same ship that we saw in the time bug cycle. The one that destroyed Federation headquarters.
And Burnham sees it, and she's like, wait, that's the one that destroyed Starfleet in my time cycle traveling kind of thingy. And that's when I'm thinking, if they had any guts at all, they would destroy Starfleet at the end of this season. But they're not.
Gosh, you have a death wish for Starfleet. What's wrong with you?
No, I love Starfleet, but I just think, wouldn't it be amazing if they did that? And then the Academy show is starting over.
No, maybe they'll do a better job of starting it over from what they did in season 3 when
they
Starfleet
changed the
was
Prime
destroyed.
Directive to something. Maybe the Prime Directive becomes not leave worlds alone, but maybe we figure out how to have them leave us alone. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. But the Breen immediately demanded the Federation turn over Moll La'ak. There will be no negotiations. And the Breen give them 1 hour to turn over Moll La'ak, or they'll consider it an act of war. So what do you do?
First of all, they've got an hour, which is, I think, awfully nice for a people who are known for not, negotiating and not wasting any time. It's strange to me that they show up in this giant ship. They don't negotiate. They want what they want, but then they go, you can have an hour to think about it.
We'll give you 1 hour.
Yeah, it's good for the show because it gives us time to work something out, but it kind of flies in the face of how they set the Breen up. And so therefore I don't fear the Breen anymore. It's kind of like, the stormtroopers, you always know they're going to get shot before they shoot someone. So I don't fear the stormtroopers. So it kind of took it down a notch.
Yeah, but at the same time, they can't just destroy the ship. They'd have to really come over and invade it. So maybe they just buy in time to do intel themselves.
Yeah. Well, they did say they do have to get Locke out of there alive. That's the point.
Commander.
I was strategizing.
We're running out of time. What do you know about Breen leadership, succession specifically?
So the thing is, Burnham consults with Rayner on his knowledge and experience with the Breen, and so we find out that the Breen had actually destroyed his homeworld when they used it as a forward operating base.
And this is the Commander Shaw or Captain Shaw La'an backstory. They destroyed my, and he also even said I was the lone survivor, which kind of steals right from La'an and steals right from Shaw. Shaw was the lone survivor in the shuttle, or one of 10.
One of a few from the shuttle,
10,
yeah.
I think they could have gone different with this. I'm really worried that this Rayner guy is really two-dimensional. I hope that he doesn't just stay angry and two-dimensional and then die like Shaw did. Maybe he does something different, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. So, Rayner, his response to her gives her an idea. The only way that they're going to act is if there's something. The only way you can reach the Breen is if they find value in something greater than what they're wanting, and that's what gave the tip off.
Which is I think at the heart of just about anybody. If I can offer you something more than what you want, will you back down? And I do like this twist. I think this does work in when they eventually do encounter the Breen and have to deal with them. So it turns around. I like too that. Is this how the Federation was defeated in the cycle, or not? Because in the time cycle, was Rayner there in the first place, or was he still a captain? And so therefore he wasn't there to help Discovery and help Michael Burnham come up with this solution. It's a good question.
Yeah, and the way I kind of saw it with the time cycling episode was the fact that the Discovery got pushed back in time. While they were cycling, in real time, they were cycling for days. And by the time they came out of the cycling, they had given Moll and La'ak that much more time to get to the next clue, which they gave to the Breen to get the blood bounty off of their heads.
Right, that's a good point. So now they've got a chance to skirt that if they can.
Try the Eternal Gallery and Archive. A mouthful, I know. We just called it the Archive. It's like a bank, but it protects knowledge. Neutral, all worlds welcome, that sort of thing. Lots of rarities go there for safekeeping.
And so, thanks to Reno, she points Tilly and Adira to a traveling archive that keeps relics from all the worlds and keeps them safe and sound. And so it's something that moves and travels. And so essentially that clue that was left behind is a library card of sorts.
A Betazoid library card. I like this too. And I really like the idea of something that moves all the time to keep it safe. Now they're coming out of the 2-dimensional and they're adding more of a 3-dimensional. So I just feel like certain sections have been a little lazy, but this one picks it back up, and for the rest of the episode, it really does rock.
Good news. You're not out of the woods, but you are stable.
Your captain thinks she can play Rune, but it's a mistake to assume Breen think like humans do. We're nothing like you.
And so we find Culber in sickbay speaking with La'ak. And, La'ak is adamant. He's just like Raynor. There's no rationalizing with the Breen. If you do this, it'll be a mistake. And after Culber leaves the containment field that's keeping him basically in security, Moll and La'ak are whispering to each other and they're plotting their escape. And La'ak is basically saying, I'm going to do something, but you're not going to like it.
But he's doing it for her. But her thing is, look, I'll just get to a shuttle and I'll beam you out and we'll get the hell out of here. So, let's hope it works.
Hail the Breen ship. Tell them we're prepared to hand over the fugitives.
Hailing now, Admiral.
And so, we get back in with Vance and company, and they send a message to Breen. They're ready to hand over, and they tell them that we're ready to hand over the fugitives. And I'm just like, okay, I don't believe this. There's got to be something else that's about to happen.
Well, this is the standoff with Khan and Kirk. Just give us a minute. The bridge is smashed. And then it's like, Admiral. And he goes, it's coming through now, Khan. And then he just drops the shields. So that's kind of what happens here is they're like, okay, listen, actually, we have a couple more minutes. It's not the full hour. I love that she says that. And she's like,
Tarina.
Yeah. Tarina says, it's not the full hour yet, so we thought you might want to hear an offer. Now, again, this does fly in the face of what everyone who knows the Breen is saying. Hey, they don't negotiate. Hey, they don't do this. Hey, But yet, for some reason, Michael Burnham and Hugh Culber and Trina all think, no, we can talk to them, and they do.
But it backfires because Tarina reveals they've. And I immediately knew this was some kind of bluff.
We tried to engage in diplomatic negotiations and have been refused, rebuffed, and now ridiculed. So we must make a difficult decision. Instead of delivering the prisoners to you, we will accept an offer we have received from Primarch Tahal.
And so, Tarina reveals that the Federation has talked to another faction leader and has offered to that, and then they've offered to give that faction leader of the Breen, Moll and La'ak, which will bolster their claim to the throne.
Right, and the Breen's like, you're lying, you're bluffing, and that's where Raynor comes in, and this is where his expertise really helps, because he starts rattling off a bunch of stuff that he knows about this particular leader and the Breen themselves, and our Breen leader, the guy on the bridge or the ship or whatever, he's just like, wow, okay, but you wouldn't destroy the ship with Moll and La'ak on it.
Yeah, and I enjoyed these scenes because you could see the chess play that was going on, and I really enjoyed that.
I agree. I think this is where it starts to get good again. There was a scene where Tilly and Adira are talking to each other, and Tilly's bolstering Adira like, you're amazing, and it's like, okay, we don't need to keep pumping each other up. This is Starfleet. People don't say that to each other on a military, vehicle. Like, you're amazing. It's like, no, we have work to do. We have a mission. Let's stop patting each other on the back and let's get to work.
Get the job done.
Get the job done.
What's the problem here?
I already told him I want to talk to Captain Burnham.
Lower the field.
That's an entire day's dose. You did this to yourself?
Moll, go! And so back in sickbay, Moll distracts Culber, and La'ak injects himself with a mega dose of the meds.
Yeah. You know what that reminded me of? Everything reminds me of everything. I'm sure you've noticed this now. But the scene,
Yes.
the scene in the Batman when they're in the Madison Square Garden and he jams that insulin, or rather that adrenaline, into his leg. Did you see the Batman?
Oh yeah, totally.
Like,
oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that reminded me of that. But yeah, that sends a mega dose into La'ak, and he just starts freaking out. And so, of course, Moll takes that chance to take out the guards because Culber drops the force field to get to help him.
Yeah, and then there's a great fight between Non and Moll. It was a great fight.
Well,
I mean,
no,
I was glad to see Non back.
Moll and Culber fight first. She kicks
Oh
his
yeah,
ass
yeah,
and
that
shoots
was
him.
awesome.
Well, he's a good fighter.
Yeah, that was an actual surprise to me.
Well, he's got. Listen, the guy's got depth. They don't show it enough, right? He works out. He's smart. He's deep, and he knows how to fight. So he fights it, but he does get shot. And then she fights Non and Moll fight, and a little girl fight, and that one's good too.
Yeah. I've never seen any of the Star Trek doctors really fight. I mean, that was the first time I was like, okay, he went fist to cuffs.
Yeah, he went for it. Blocked a couple things. Took a punch, gave a punch. It was good.
Yep. But back with the meeting between the Federation and the Breen, the faction leader says he will exceed the terms that the other faction gave.
Right. So they're like, well...
And so...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Then Trina suggests that they keep Moll and La'ak anyway.
We have no desire to engage in a bidding war between your factions. There is a third option. We reject Tahal's offer. You leave here in peace. We keep the prisoners.
Yeah, and I thought this was really, really brilliant. It's like, listen, why don't we just keep Moll La'ak? Because if we give them to either one of you, it'll cause a war and a fight. Why don't you just deal with your competition in the interim yourself?
Which all of a sudden goes to negotiation. And it's a complete 180 from what everyone says about the Breen. They don't negotiate. So it's just strange to me. I know that he's desperate and he needs to get La'ak for his own purposes. But why don't they just go and start shooting everybody and go find him? Like, they seem like badasses. They've got all this armor. They look like Iron Man. Why are they standing there negotiating with a woman who has no armor?
Yeah, I thought for certain that they were going to, be in a shooting war in that room because there was quite a few Breen and Starfleet officers.
Why
I
are they
thought that's
standing
what it
there?
was going to come to.
No, I said they walk in there with those full riot gear suits. They could take the place easily.
And they're glow sticks.
Yeah, the glow stick of destiny. I don't understand why they didn't, other than we can't kill main characters. And so I felt, I don't know. I just don't think you should set up a race and say they don't take prisoners, they're mean, they don't negotiate, and then they, don't take prisoners, they don't, and they negotiate. I just think, what are you trying to tell me here? So that's my thing. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no. I 100% get it. And so, Burnham gets a call from Non, and she goes to sick bay, and La'ak is in critical condition. He basically OD'd on the meds, and they need a Breen doc. So, meanwhile, Book is working with Stamets.
I need to go. No, Non's after her.
No, Moll.
We have to
I can
solve
help.
this. Book, the mission has to be the priority.
And an unlikely pair, but yeah, Stamets convinces him to work on the clue and to use his powers, his intuition, the turn on your headlight. Yeah, so that kind of thing. And off he goes, and he gets the clue. He gets the meaning of it.
Yeah, and he gives the visuals and what he sees. It's not 100% clear, but he gives that information to Stamets, but he runs off to find to find Moll himself.
To find Moll.
Yeah.
Moll, lower your weapon! Ship's locked down, there's nowhere to go!
She's got a map to shuttle bay.
Shut up! What you did back in sickbay to get out? Backfired. La'ak misjudged the dose. He may not make it.
And then at the same time, Book and Commander Non engaged with Moll, and Non is telling her that La'ak is dying, and Book confirms this and tells her, really appeals to her, said
to find Moll.
You want to be by his side, basically in his final moments.
I'm sorry. I guess I used too much.
I need you with me.
It's okay. You'll be okay. I promise.
Breen faction leader and Dr. beam into sick bay, and that's not the beginning of a joke. But he says if he dies, it's war, and I do like the stakes there. It makes sense. I couldn't tell if he was bluffing or not, which means she couldn't tell. And so in a way, that scene both worked for me and didn't work for me because I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I kind of thought that, I knew he was really sick, but at the same time I thought, well, maybe this is all a ploy. Maybe they'll fake his death. Maybe they'll do a show for the Breen.
Yeah.
Who knows? What's going to happen. Right. But she goes to sick bay, and this is the part that I really loved the most. I thought this was well acted, well played, well played out, and he's there, and I was like, oh my God, he really is dying.
Yeah, and he's on these meds. Now, does he actually die, or does he just pass out?
He dies. He dies.
He dies.
And he discusses his love and devotion. He tells them, I'm sorry, I took too much, and, I love you, don't worry about it. And
so I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking they dosed him with something that made it seem like he died, like he's not going to die.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is a trick.
Yeah, at this point, I'm still holding out hope that it's all a ruse, for show. Oh, but I just remember earlier, why would that be the case? Because the Breen had already said if he dies, it's war. So why would you fake his death? So I was very conflicted and didn't know what was going to take place, which is a good place to be because I don't want to know every next step. So I was just hanging on, waiting to see what really took place here. What was I really seeing?
Yeah. Agreed.
You killed the Scion.
No, he did this to himself.
He hacked a biobed and injected himself with a massive dose of tricortisine.
Intention is nothing. Outcome is everything. Prepare for battle.
Now the Breen are pissed off. They're blaming the Federation for the death. And we hear there's 4 ships coming in. I'm like, oh my God, it's more Breen, but it's not. It's 4 Federation ships.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, okay, now we're going to get the shooting war. It's on. This is what's going to happen.
I go where La'ak goes. Even in death. This is the privilege of our joining.
An abomination.
No. A marriage.
And so Moll shows the Breen a matching brand on her arm, on her forearm, to La'ak's, revealing that the two were married, which means she says the Breen are now obligated to take her with them.
And first he's like, no, I'm not going to. You'll never be accepted. You'll never, whatever. And she's like, I'm his wife. And then she's like, and by the way, the Federation possesses a power that will ensure the faction leader could take the throne. And, she's just like, I was like, God damn it. Why is she doing this? I think she's doing it now to bait them, but maybe she's not. Maybe this is pure survival.
But she's very, cold and calculating. So I don't underestimate her at all.
Right. But whose side is she on now? Right.
Yeah. And so now the Breen give him 5 minutes to beam her over.
You have 5 minutes again.
You now have 5 minutes.
Wow.
And so
we cut immediately to a meeting, which at least took 7 minutes to get there. They had to walk over.
Well, they could beam all over the ship, so maybe they got right to it. But
okay, fine. Hurry up, we have 4 minutes.
She's not thinking straight.
She is, and she has a plan.
Her motives are irrelevant at this moment. I have a decision to make on behalf of the Federation. That is where our attention should be.
And so they're all debating, what to do and weighing the odds out. We have more to lose than the game by not giving him back.
Yeah, and Booker, of course, is talking about options and what Moll's motives are, and he's, pushing for her. And he does this quick mention of the tech being able to create life as well as revive the dead, and it's like, ooh.
Yeah, and that was mentioned in a previous episode, that there were discussions about what the possibilities of what the progenitor tech could do. And so maybe that's what Moll is angling for. I'll get with them, get the tech, and bring my boyfriend back. My husband back.
Well, here's the thing. My Breen friend's back. Here's the thing. The Federation, maybe what Burnham saw was true. Maybe the Breen does destroy the Federation. but then somehow whoever survives has the tech, and they bring everybody back. So the prophecy comes true. What they saw was true. Just like, Pike saw his future in Strange New Worlds. Wouldn't that be an interesting ending? Like, oh my God, they actually destroyed the Federation. And then someone presses the progenitor button, and it's the Omega-13. They go back 13 seconds.
Hey, that would be interesting. I'm really interested to see how this is all going to play out in the end. So I'm digging it. I'm digging it because nothing played out like I thought it would. And so they actually beam her aboard, and you see the Dreadnought take off. And I'm like, dang, they actually did it.
We figured it out. So the next clue is in a place called the Eternal Gallery and Archive.
Today must have been really difficult. She did really well today.
What they did to my planet, though, never gonna happen again.
We'll make sure of it.
So we get with Stamets, and he reveals that they found the next clue, which is in the Eternal Gallery and Archive. And the ship moves every 50 years, so they know where it has been, so they're able to plot where it is currently. It's in the Badlands.
And it's in the Badlands where Voyager got lost. There's an interesting little twist.
Yeah. So it's like another touch point on canon.
Yeah. They do a lot. They've done a lot this season. They needed to.
Yep. And so, we end with Burnham and Rayner, and she, knowing his history, she acknowledges that it was a difficult day, but, applauds him for staying the course.
Yeah. I'm going to be curious to see what happens. I think, here's my prediction. He's going to pull a Shaw. He's going to come around, kind of be a good guy or go against his instincts or whatever, and then die. And if that's the case, I'm going to be a little disappointed in the two-dimensional characterization of Rayner, but I'm hoping maybe something more.
Yeah, well, we will see. I mean, I actually like him. I dig him.
Okay.
And he was in Battlestar Galactica, by the way.
Oh, he was?
He was one of the
oh my God. One of the Senate?
Was it 10 of them? 10 models? Or 8 models, 9 models? He was, the...
Oh my God. He was the first one.
That's him.
Yes, he was model number 1. He was yes. Oh my God. I didn't know that. He was great.
It took me a long time to figure it out. And then I was like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. And then I looked it up and I was like, yep, that was him.
Wow, cool. Yeah, now I remember he was very sweaty, and they found him when he was really sick.
Yeah, exactly, because of the interference in that nebula that the
couldn't regenerate.
Was in, where they were hiding. Yeah, when they were at the weapons depot.
Interesting. Boy, the years really fooled me. I guess those years worked.
Yeah, the years worked, So, I was like, all right. So the two beamed to the bridge, and now they're off to find, I guess, the archive.
On to the next clue. There's one left. 3 episodes. 3 episodes. Some stuff's got to go down.
Oh yeah, I think we're gonna hit our stride. It's gonna be a groundswell of a lot of stuff that's about to happen because they went back and reshot and did an epilogue to all of this stuff. So something big is gonna happen, and I'm looking forward to see how this all plays out. I liked finding out more about Rayner, and I really did like the love story. I didn't expect a boy to die, Locke, and I thought that was a really poignant moment.
I did too. I thought it brought a lot of reality to what's going on here. Not, somebody actually does die. Somebody actually, and he sacrificed himself for her, really, and also to not let his uncle gain power. So, yeah, there's high stakes there. I was impressed.
It was a sad but nice surprise, and so it didn't play out sing-songy.
Yeah.
Oh, at the last minute they save him. No, he actually died. So I was sitting there, I was like, man, he actually did die. So I'm still in. I'm looking forward to see how this plays out. My interest is piqued. Yeah,
me too.
Well, that concludes this episode of the Star Trek Discovery edition of Energize.
We got 3 more till the end of the series, so stay tuned with us every week, and we'll wrap it up as you guys wrap it up. Thanks for listening. You can check out Anthony at anthonymclemore.com. Check me out at stevetruitt.com. My book, The Mindset Chronicles, Book 2, The Spill, drops in just 2 weeks, May 21st.
All right. Well, I'm Anthony McLemore.
I'm Steve Truitt. Live long and prosper.